Now that we've discussed inline styles, which are on a line-by-line basis, and we've discussed embedded styles, which is where we put a style sheet inside of the head section, like you see right here. This is where we last left off. We use a style tag in the head section to add some CSS. The third option, and truly the best, is an external style sheet. And this gives us the power to have an external sheet. So none of this exists here. We make a whole new document and we call it style.css or whatever name .css. The neat thing about that is that all of our style rules are in one spot. When we want to change it, or our boss says, I don't like the blue background anymore, let's go with red, you go into your one style sheet, you change it there, and every page in your website that calls for that style sheet will automatically be updated. So it's so much easier. So we're going to start by making a brand new document. We're going to make a CSS sheet in Notepad. So we're going to do a File, New, and we're just going to get a new document up here with nothing. Now, CSS is very different. We don't need to start with anything really. We are going to start with a comment just to remind ourselves. Commenting in CSS looks a little bit different than it does in HTML. It's a backslash and then an asterisk. And now anything you put in here is just for human consumption. It won't show on your website at all. So this is the CSS for bubble under. And then to close it out, you do the opposite, asterisk, backslash. So there's your comments. Then we're going to go down, and when we're doing an external style sheet, we do not need to use style tags. Because we're going to name this .css, it knows it's a style sheet. So we can just start by writing our rules right away. So let's go with a paragraph rule. So we say the selector is paragraph, and then we do a curly brace, and then our rules go inside here. The first one we want is a font weight of bold, semicolon, and then we want a color of blue, semicolon. Ugh. And then we finish with our curly brace. Let's name this before we go too far. We're going to do a File, Save As, and here is where we need to change our type to be CSS, cascading, where are you? Style sheet, there we go, .css. And the name that we're going to give it, we'll just call it style. So style.css, save. All right, so here's our file. That's all we need. We're ultimately going to make a lot more rules on this style sheet, but now we have it done. So that's your first step. This is going to be in the same folder as your HTML, which we did. If we go back to our desktop and take a peek here, so many things open. Here's my clean bubble under. And it didn't take, mine did not take the .css like it was supposed to. That's always something to check. I should see the extension over here. So if that happens to you, let's just right click and rename that file. And I'm going to manually type in .css. Okay, now it's correct. I see over here in the type column, cascading style sheet. I'm going to try to stretch that out a little bit. There we go. And I see a little bit different icon here. So if when you're doing that naming protocol, sometimes, whoops, the file doesn't exist anymore. Keep this file in editor. Oh boy. I'll say no. Oh shoot, did I lose it completely? Well, this is a lovely tutorial, isn't it? Okay, so the one that didn't exist, that had no extension, I told to go away. So let's do a file, open, and grab the one that does exist, the one that I renamed. hopefully you're not having this problem, but if you are, this is where you can see the problem and fix it. So open, all right, style.css. Here is our style sheet. Now what we need to do is we need to tell all of these pages in our site that we do have an external style sheet that it should pay attention to. So let's start with our index page, and the first thing I want to do is clean up. I want to take out the embedded style that we put in earlier. We don't need this. It's redundant and it's wasted time. So delete that out. And let's go to our save it also. Save. Then let's go to our about page. And let's take out, actually these are spans, so we'll just leave those in. They're fine. So all we did was we removed the embedded style from our index page. Now, however, to get all three of our pages to understand that there is an external style sheet that it needs to go to for its rules, we need to do one line of code in the head section on every single page. And that one line of code is a link. We've done that before. So start with link. And then what is it linking to? We're going to do href, like we've done before, equals. And this time we're going to put in quotations the name of our document, style.css. In the handout, we were supposed to name this style 1. I didn't do that. So in the handout, it says style 1, but we named ours style.css. So the first thing you do is say, we're going to link to something. What is it? Where is it? It's style.css. Then the next thing we're going to tell it is what is it? So the rel equals, and then in quotes you say style sheet. And then this last bit that they show is not necessary, but we're going to type it in. And that is type equals, and then in quotes, text /CSS end quote, backslash quote. No, I'm sorry, caret. All right. All right, what this line of code does is it tells it, by the way, there's a style sheet called style.css located in the same folder that you need to go find to stylize all the pages that ask for it. And this index page is currently the only one that's asking for it. If you save your document and run it in Chrome, you should see all of the paragraphs have been turned to blue and bold. And the reason that that happened is because in our style sheet, we told paragraphs to be bold and blue. Back in this code, I want to show you two things. We talked about a break code before. I'm just going to type that in. And this is how our handout handled it, BR backslash. That's when you intentionally want to force yourself down one line. You want to do like a hard return. The code has been cleaned up a little where this backslash is no longer necessary. So to write a break code, this is all you need now. The same holds true for this link that we just did, how it ends with a backslash to show that it's a void or just one only tag. It doesn't have an open and a close. That's no longer needed either. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to remove this break that I just showed you. So that ending backslash that you see in the handout is not necessary. When I do a save of this file and run it again, you're going to see the exact same result. The two paragraphs are still bold and blue. So that's one thing that looks a little odd in your handout, that ending backslash, but it is not actually needed. All right, so now that we have the link to our external style sheet written correctly and working on our index page, we're going to highlight it all and copy it. And then we're going to go to our About page, and also in the head section, we're going to paste the link here as well. And then and save it. Make sure you hit save. And then we're going to open our third page, which is the contact page. We don't have that one open yet. And in the head section, we're going to paste again that same link to our style sheet. Now, if we hit save, all three of our files are linked to that external style sheet, all 3 pages in our website. So if we go look at our contact page in Chrome, all of the paragraphs are in blue. If we go to our About page, all of the paragraphs are in blue. If we go to Contact, all of the paragraphs are in blue, or Home, I'm sorry. So you can see that one rule in our one CSS file is being applied to all of the 3 pages. To test it, let's just change the color from blue to red. Save our CSS file. It's always important that you save the file before you go and load up an HTML page and try to run it again. If you don't save that CSS file, it won't update to the change. So now that we saved our CSS, we're going to go to the index page, launch it in Chrome. Now we have red paragraphs. Red paragraphs. If you remember, the reason that bubble under is blue, I'll show you in code, is because we told that to be intentionally with an inline code. So that's on our About page. Let's go to that. Right here, we used a span, which basically is it means nothing, but it's just saying whatever I say between the 2 span tags is where you apply it. So we applied a style of blue and bold between the 2 span tags, and the words it contained were bubble under. That's why when we go to this page, bubble under stayed blue. An inline rule will overwrite an external file. That has to do with that cascade that we talked about earlier. So again, if we look at all of our pages, everything has turned to blue. So I'm going to pop back to, our PowerPoint and attempt to go back to this cascade just to remind you. So how it handles it is that if there's an inline style, that takes precedence over what's embedded in the page. An embedded style, if you have that on just one page, but you do have external style sheet, that's going to take over because it goes in order of the cascade. It looks for each one of these and it applies the quote most important. If you have an external style sheet, it's after the browser defaults to Times New Roman for your paragraph. If you have an external style sheet, it's going to apply whatever you said. So maybe in our case, we said blue and bold, Arial is what we chose. However, if we have a 30-page website, and that's the rule for all 30 pages, but on one page, maybe the contact page, we want it to be red type, we could do an embedded style on just that one page, and that will override the one previous to it. So that one page will be stylized. Now, if on our embedded page, we say all types should be red, even though it's blue everywhere else, but we get to one line, one paragraph in the whole entire page, and for some reason we want that one paragraph to be green, we would use an inline style to stylize that one paragraph to be bold and green, and that would override these other 2 styles. So that's how the cascade works.